Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our coffee times. Today we're here to discuss some of the newest or recent Netflix movie releases.
It's coffee time!
So I do try to keep up with Netflix exclusive movies and TV shows, and I have been watching some of the movies that they have been releasing. Now, not all of them are horror. Other ones I didn't have so much to talk about. So here is a list of 8 of the movies that I have been watching through March and April, and a little bit my thoughts on them and letting you know guys if I recommend them to you or not. As always, if you are new here to the channel but you love horror movies and TV shows, please consider subscribing to the channel and also hit the notification bell before you leave. Since these are all movies that I have watched and rated on Letterboxd, my link to the account is down below so you can follow me there as well. So because I gave them already ratings, I'm gonna do these from worst to best, or from the one that I enjoyed the least to the ones that I enjoyed the most. So let's start with the one that got the poop emoji for me, and that is Deadly Illusions. I gave this one only half a point, half a star. That's all it gets. Half a star out of 5. So this rating is because honestly when I went into it, when I saw the poster already, when I read the description, I was like, oh no, this is going to be like such a meh thriller, you know guys, and it was just even worse than that. An American thriller drama film written and directed by Anna Elizabeth James, telling the story of a writer and her struggles. Fiction and reality begin to blur when a struggling writer hires a woman to watch over her twin children. We follow Mary Morrison, and she is a successful thriller novel writer, and she kind of wants to retire. She has stopped writing her thriller series, but they make her an offer for a lot of money if she will be willing to write yet one more book for the series, and she declines. However, when she gets home, she talks to her husband, and apparently he has lost a bunch of money by some wrong investments, and she's kind of forced now to write that novel that she didn't want to write in the first place. So in order to get some help around the house and, you know, get some time to focus on her novel, she hires a new nanny from a reputable agency. This has to be one of the worst Netflix movies that I have ever seen. This is a thriller that is trying to build up suspense, I guess, but it doesn't work. The mystery doesn't work. It's just a hot mess. The script was just poor and it was just so predictable. It's like one of those thrillers that just decided to take everything you've ever seen in one of those thriller cliche movies and just put it all together in a movie and pray that it worked. This messy film was an attempt to create a, you know, psychodrama slash erotica thriller, and it was just bad. It was just so bad that I'm kind of begging you guys not to check it out. Next we have Things Heard and Seen. Sadly, this one I did hope to like because I really enjoy seeing Amanda Seyfried, and I was hoping that this one was going to be a good one. I only gave it 2.5 out of 5. I was just hoping that after the disaster and disappointment that was You Should Have Left for me, I hoped that this movie would redeem her and give her like a good thriller, but no, we failed yet again. An American horror thriller film based on the novel All Things Cease to Appear by Elizabeth Brundage, starring Amanda Seyfried and James Norton. We have here our typical cliche: a married couple move into the countryside, into a farmhouse, and they end up discovering the dark secrets of things that had happened in that house in the past. Not only is this premise cliche, but the whole movie is built on cliches. I was hoping that this was going to be a nice haunted house ghost story, and you actually have to wait at least until minute 40 to see something that it's really spooky, can be considered horror, and it was just so disappointing. Like, you cannot keep a viewer 40 minutes where nothing spooky, unsettling really happens. If what you're selling to me, it's a ghost story slash haunted house story, it's not working because you lose me already in 40 minutes where it's just dragging. Amanda plays the character of Catherine, and there is also so much toxic masculinity in this movie, and Catherine just cannot be happy in this place, especially when she starts to learn the things that had happened in that house, and she feels like a dark presence. You can see my eyes rolling because I was hoping to love this movie, and it was 2 insufferable hours of movie. I, can tell you at least that the acting was amazing. I love Amanda so much. I think she's a great actress. I think she's just not being lucky either with the things that they're offering her or with the roles that she decides to take, to be honest. But this movie was not thrilling. There was no suspense. It was not scary. It was kind of predictable. It was cliche. So it kind of failed in many levels. So yeah, another disappointment for me. The next movie I would like to talk to you guys about is a movie that normally I don't talk about these movies on my channel, but I thought it was a decent watch, and that is Moxie. I gave this one 3 out of 5, and I knew about the book before Netflix did the movie. I never read the book. It's very popular in the YA booktube community, and I decided to give the movie a chance. And I mean, it was a nice watch. It had really nice things to say, but it was not as good as I had hoped for. An American comedy drama film directed by Amy Poehler. Inspired by her mom's rebellious past and a confident new friend, a shy teenager publishes an anonymous magazine calling out sexism at her school. We follow Vivian, a 16-year-old that goes to high school with her best friend Claudia, and they have a new girl at school, and Vivian kind of sees while she's being bullied and does nothing, and the school doesn't seem to be taking this bullying seriously, so that's why Vivian decides that it is time to create this magazine and complain about it. Moxie is in the end a sweet coming-of-age story that addresses timeless topics like harassment, bullying, rape, all of these things, and I kind of wish that it would have really went all out there with the themes because they feel like a little bit toned down. Like, it has a lot of charm, but I don't think it quite managed to be as revolutionary as they wanted the movie to be, but I still recommend it to check it, you guys, if you enjoy this type of movies. This is more made, of course, for teenagers, so if you have, kids around this age, this is a nice one to watch. Next we have The Soul, which I gave also 3 out of 5, and this is a good example of a movie that even though it has 2 hours of running time, it was actually worth it to sit through the whole movie. The Soul is a Chinese film originally titled Ji-hun. It is a drama, mystery, crime, and sci-fi. While investigating the death of a businessman, a prosecutor and his wife uncover occult secrets as they face their own life and death dilemma. We follow basically the investigation of a murder of the chairman of a famous group, and we follow the prosecutor and his wife, who happens to be also an investigation officer, and they perform a lot of interviews with all of their related people to this guy, like business associates, the newly married wife, his son, and everybody, to try to put the pieces of the puzzle together of what actually happened to him. Now, this movie had so many interesting things to show you. The whole movie, it's kind of like it has this really dark, kind of watery tones, and it worked so well because we have here also a lot of emotional baggage, not just because we are exploring the dark past of this man that was murdered, but also because our main characters, the prosecutor and his wife, also are going through a lot. And this is going to be a movie that it's going to be, one of those exciting murder mystery movies where you're trying to figure out who did it, and there are some twists and turns, but on the other side we also have a lot of sadness. The next movie, I nearly did a separate video for this one because I really enjoyed it and I wanted you guys to know about this movie, so I'm here to talk to you about it. In English it's called Coven, or Coven of Sisters, and I gave this one 3.5 out of 5, and the original title is in Basque, which is one of the languages that we speak in Spain, and the original title is Aquelarre, and it's all about the 1600s and how women were being kind of persecuted, accused of being witches. A Spanish historical drama film directed by Pablo Agüero. In 1609, in the Basque Country, a group of 5 teenagers is captured and arrested as main suspects of witchcraft as they celebrated a party in the woods. So we get introduced to these 5 girls that just seem like regular teenagers that are just having fun in the woods, and then we get to see this judge that comes to town, to this small village, looking for them, accusing them of witchcraft. They lock them up and they interview them one by one, and they are basically accusing them of, you know, having a relationship with the devil. This is such an amazing, excellent portrayal of the witch hunt that we had in Spain in the 1600s, and how desperate they were to, you know, get people to confess because they needed people to say that they were guilty for their own purposes. There is this kind of magical element to this movie, and the visuals are pretty good. They are kind of like the visuals we've been seeing in similar movies portraying, you know, women being persecuted for witchcraft, or like The Reckoning, movies like that. It does a really good job, plus it has also really good acting. I was really surprised that I enjoyed this movie so much. For me, this is like a hidden gem that I found on Netflix. I'm really happy that I found this movie, that they did this movie, and parts of the movie are spoken in Basque, so I did watch it with subtitles in Spanish. So if you guys want to check it out, I also recommend you, I always say everything that it's not original in English, I recommend you to use subtitles. That's what I always do. I just feel like it hits differently when you are hearing the original language. The next movie that we're going to talk about is Pieces of a Woman. I also gave this one 3.5 out of 5, and of course, based on the description, based on the trailer, I was expecting a heavy topic discussed in this film. But I don't know if I was emotionally ready for those first like 30 minutes of the movie, because that was intense. In this Canadian-American drama, we explore the heartbreaking home birth that leaves a woman grappling with the profound emotional fallout, isolated from her partner and her family due to all the grief. Martha and Sean are a young Boston couple. They are expecting their first baby, and they are very excited about it. They have planned a home birth, and when Martha goes into labor, the woman that was supposed to assist her, the nurse, is not available because she is delivering another baby, so they send a replacement. Martha already is not happy about this, but they have no other choice. Now, during the labor, there are some complications, and the baby, even though is delivered, seems to have some breathing problems and ends up dying. And that is basically where the movie really takes off. Now, the first 30 minutes of this movie is just basically Martha in labor. Like, they really go slowly through the whole labor. No other movie has done this, and that was very bold to do, but I think it was important for the viewer to really know exactly what happened throughout the whole delivery, to be able to understand the reasons why Martha makes the decisions that she makes in the future. Now, this is a movie that heavily addresses grief, loss, forgiveness, moving on, and also how such a traumatic event like you losing your baby is going to change the way you have relationships with other people, not just with your husband, but also with others. As you can imagine, this movie really focuses on character development and their psychology. So it is not a movie that has a huge plot, a lot of action. Not many things happen really in this movie. So if you enjoy this kind of character exploration movies, this might be for you, because you get to see Martha dealing with that grief, but also how her husband is affected and other people as well that are close to her. Now, this movie did give you 30 minutes at the beginning depicting this labor, you know, this delivery of the baby in a way I have never seen done before. Like the angles that they use, the camera work, like it was just so intense, and it was just so believable that it almost made you uncomfortable to keep watching. But I think that was the point of the movie. So like, this is a really good movie, but obviously it's a huge drama. Now let's go to another movie that I gave 3.5, and that is Love and Monsters. This movie was just a blast. I had so much fun with this movie, and it's one of those dark comedies that really worked for me. Love and Monsters is an American monster adventure film directed by Michael Matthews. 7 years after the monster apocalypse, Joel Dawson, along with the rest of humanity, has been living underground ever since giant creatures took control of the land. He manages to find his old girlfriend Amy in another colony using the radio, and he finds out that she's only 80 miles away from him, and even though he doesn't even know how to hunt, he decides he's gonna do it for love. He's gonna leave the safety of his bunker and he's gonna go and find her. This was just such an imaginative, fun adventure. The creatures were so well done. It was just such a fresh take on the concept of apocalypse and creatures, because these are your typical bugs like snails and cockroaches and like frogs, and it was just hilarious. And the creatures were so well done. It really seemed like they were there with the characters. Like, the work done in this movie, it's pretty good for Netflix. Like, the production, everything, it was just 10 out of 10. It was non-stop action and there were a couple of twists, but also this is a post-apocalyptic movie that has a lot of heart apart from monsters, and I think that's why it had so much charm and you can just not stop yourself from loving our main character. And for the last movie that I would like to talk to you about today is one of my favorites of the Netflix releases from 2021. I also gave this one 3.5 out of 5, and also the acting in this movie is out of this world. I'm talking about a movie that has divided a little bit people. Some people love it, some people hate it, and that is I Care a Lot. This movie, when I went into it, I was like, is this going to be your typical thriller? Boy, was I wrong. Was I in for a ride. An American black comedy film written and directed by Jay Blakeson. The film follows a court-appointed guardian that takes the assets of elderly people for her own, only for her to get mixed up with a dangerous gangster. Marla Grayson is basically a scammer that convinces the legal system that certain elderly people need her as a guardian, and when she gets that granted, she takes ownership of all of these people's assets and she basically uses to benefit from it. That is until she messes up with a family of gangsters. This movie was full of twists and turns. The acting, like I have mentioned before, was just stunning. Rosamund Pike as Marla has been the best thing I have seen in a long time. Even though this might seem like your typical cat and mouse game between Marla and the gangsters, this was just so much more. There's so many twists and turns to the story, and honestly, at some point you don't know who are you rooting for, who you should be rooting for, and I think that's part of why this movie was just so engaging. It was just dark and cynical and I absolutely loved it. So if you have not checked it out yet, please do, because I think this was just genius. Alright you guys, so these are 8 of the Netflix exclusive movies that I have checked out in the month of March and April. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know down below if you have watched any of these movies and if you love them or not. Let's talk about it in the comments. Thanks so much for watching you guys. As always, please give the video a big thumbs up before you leave, and I hope to see you all in the next coffee time. Bye!